Have you ever felt a strange stirring inside, as if the life you've known is beginning to unravel? Not in a way that brings fear, but in a way that whispers, something new is coming? You see, life is not a stagnant pond, it is a river, ever flowing, ever changing. And when the current picks up, when the familiar shores begin to fade, it is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of transformation. Most people resist change because they fear the unknown. But what if I told you that the very discomfort you feel is proof that you are on the brink of something extraordinary? What if, instead of clinging to what was, you embraced the uncertainty as a gateway to something greater? Let me show you 7 unmistakable signs that your life is about to change for the better, if only you have the eyes to see. Have you ever felt a quiet but persistent restlessness, an unshakable feeling that something in your life no longer fits? Perhaps the job you once found fulfilling now feels like a cage, or the people you used to resonate with seem distant, like echoes from a past that no longer belongs to you. It is easy to mistake this unease for dissatisfaction, for a sign that something has gone wrong. But what if, instead, this feeling is life's way of nudging you towards something greater? But what if this is not an end, but the stirring of a new beginning? Most of us fear uncertainty because we believe that security is found in the familiar. We cling to routines, relationships, and identities because they give us a sense of stability. But life is not a stagnant thing. It is movement, rhythm, a dance that flows whether we resist it or not. And when you begin to sense this restlessness, when you feel the tightness of a life that no longer expands with you, it is not a problem to be fixed. It is an invitation to grow. Think of the seed beneath the soil. For weeks, months, even years, it remains hidden, enveloped in darkness, secure in its small, self-contained world. But there comes a moment when the shell can no longer contain the life within it, a moment when the seed feels the pull of the sun it has never seen, the whisper of the wind it has never felt, and so it cracks. From the outside, this might look like destruction, but in truth it is the first sign of life. The breaking is not the end of the seed, it is the birth of the tree. In the same way, when you begin to feel this strange internal shift, this restlessness, this inexplicable desire for something beyond what you have known, it is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that your old way of being can no longer contain the person you are becoming. It is the first sign that your life is about to change. But what do most people do when they feel this way? They resist. They try to suppress the feeling, drown it in distractions, convince themselves that they should be content. After all, isn't that what we are told? To be grateful, to appreciate what we have, to silence the voice inside that dares to want more. But gratitude and growth are not enemies. You can be thankful for where you are while still honoring the call to something greater. The two are not in conflict unless you refuse to listen. You might find yourself feeling disconnected from things that once brought you joy. Perhaps your usual entertainment no longer excites you, or the conversations you once engaged in now seem hollow. You might even begin questioning things you never thought to question before. Why do I do this? Why do I believe that? Why does this no longer feel right? And in those moments you have a choice. You can dismiss these feelings as fleeting doubts, or you can see them for what they are, signs that life is shifting, that something within you is preparing to move. This is the first step in transformation, not some external event, but an internal awakening. The feeling that you are outgrowing your current reality is proof that something new is emerging. And just like the seed that cracks before the tree can grow, you must be willing to let go of the safety of the familiar if you are to step into the life that is waiting for you. So, when you feel this restlessness, this strange pull towards something you cannot yet define, do not fear it. Do not resist it. Welcome it. For it is not a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that you are finally being found. There comes a time in life when the things that once made sense no longer do. The routines that once brought comfort now feel like cages, and the beliefs you once held tightly begin to loosen their grip. It can be unsettling, this feeling of disillusionment, as if the world you built for yourself is somehow crumbling. But what if that crumbling is not the end, but the very beginning of something new? What if the breaking down of the old is simply making space for what is to come? Most people fear this feeling. They assume that if their old ways of thinking, living, or being no longer satisfy them, then something must be wrong. They try to force themselves to fit back into the mold they have outgrown, convincing themselves that the discomfort is just a phase. But what if it isn't? What if this disillusionment is life's way of telling you that you are ready for something more? Look closely at the moments in your life when you have felt the most lost. Perhaps a career you once loved no longer excites you, or friendships that once felt like home now feel distant and strained. Maybe your daily routines feel monotonous, your ambitions unclear, your sense of purpose uncertain. It is tempting in such moments to panic, to cling desperately to what once felt right, to try to rekindle enthusiasm for things that no longer set your soul on fire. But the truth is, this feeling is not a problem. It is an invitation. You see, life has a way of guiding us forward even when we don't realize it. When something no longer resonates, it is not a sign of failure, it is a sign that you are evolving. Just as a snake sheds its skin, you are shedding an old version of yourself. And just as the snake does not mourn the skin it leaves behind, you too must learn to embrace the process of letting go. But letting go is not always easy. The mind clings to the familiar even when the familiar no longer serves us. You may find yourself reminiscing, trying to recapture the past, searching for ways to make the old feel new again. But deep down you know the truth. You cannot return to what you were because you are no longer that person. And that is not a loss, it is growth. Think about the moments in history when great change was about to take place. Before the Renaissance, there was a period of darkness and stagnation. Before the dawn of new scientific discoveries, there was resistance, skepticism, and uncertainty. And before every personal breakthrough, there is a moment of doubt, a moment when the old ways stop making sense. It is in this moment that you must make a choice. Will you cling to what no longer serves you simply because it is familiar? Or will you trust that something better is waiting beyond the discomfort of change? It is not an easy path, growth rarely is, but consider this: the discomfort you feel is not there to punish you, it is there to wake you up. It is a sign that you are ready to step into a new version of yourself, a version that is no longer satisfied with the limits of the past. And if you can surrender to this process, if you can trust that the dissolution of the old is necessary for the emergence of the new, you will find that life has been guiding you all along. So do not fear the unraveling. Do not resist the feeling that the old ways no longer fit. This is not the end of your journey. It is the moment before transformation. You are not losing yourself. You are simply becoming who you were always meant to be. Have you ever noticed strange coincidences appearing in your life, as if the universe itself is whispering to you? You think of an old friend and suddenly they call. You stumble upon a book that contains exactly the wisdom you needed to hear. You find yourself in the right place at the right time, encountering the right people as if guided by some invisible force. Most people dismiss these moments as chance, as mere accidents of life. But what if they are not? What if these synchronicities are signs that your life is aligning in ways you cannot yet comprehend? Throughout history, many of the greatest thinkers, artists, and visionaries have spoken of a force beyond the logical mind, a flow that seems to shape our experiences when we least expect it. Carl Jung called it synchronicity, a meaningful connection between events that cannot be explained by mere cause and effect. Alan Watts often spoke of the interconnected nature of reality, how what seems random is often part of a deeper pattern. And when you begin to see these patterns appearing in your life, when events seem to click into place effortlessly, it is not just luck. It is a sign that something is shifting. But here is the paradox. Synchronicities do not happen when we are chasing them. They occur when we surrender, when we stop forcing life into a narrow path and instead allow it to unfold naturally. When you begin to notice these little cosmic nudges, it is an indication that you are stepping into a flow where life no longer feels like an uphill struggle but an unfolding journey. It is as if reality itself is arranging circumstances in your favor, guiding you towards something greater. Pay attention to how these moments feel. They often come with a sense of deep knowing, an inner recognition that something important is happening, even if you cannot quite explain why. You might meet someone who inspires you, stumble upon an opportunity you never expected, or receive an answer to a question you had been silently asking. These moments are not mere accidents. They are evidence that life is responding to you. And yet so many people ignore them. They chalk up synchronicities to coincidence, brush them aside, and return to their old ways of thinking. But if you dismiss these signs, you risk missing the very opportunities that could change your life. The key is to remain open, to trust that when things begin aligning effortlessly, it is not a fluke, it is an invitation. Think about a time when you felt truly in sync with life, when everything seemed to fall into place without struggle. Maybe it was a period of creative inspiration, when ideas flowed effortlessly. Maybe it was a time when the right people came into your life just when you needed them. Or perhaps it was a moment of profound clarity, when everything made sense in a way you could not quite explain. These are not random occurrences. They are glimpses into how life works when we stop resisting and start flowing. But here's the catch. You must trust it. The rational mind will always try to explain these moments away, to reduce them to probabilities and logic, but life is not a mathematical equation. It is a dance. And when you begin to see these synchronicities, it is life's way of showing you that you are on the right path. The more you pay attention, the more they appear, like guideposts leading you forward. So the next time you experience one of these moments, a chance meeting, a timely message, a door opening effortlessly, do not dismiss it. Take a moment to acknowledge it, to recognize that something greater is at play. Because when synchronicities begin to appear, it is a clear sign that your life is shifting, that you are stepping into a new chapter where things no longer happen to you, but for you. At some point you will feel the pull, the deep, inexplicable urge to surrender, not in defeat, but in a way that feels like relief, as if you are finally letting go of a weight you were never meant to carry. This is one of the most overlooked signs that your life is about to change. For so long, you have fought, planned, and struggled to control the direction of your life. You have clung to ideas of how things should be, forcing outcomes, resisting uncertainty, believing that if you don't hold everything together, it will all fall apart. But then something shifts. You begin to sense that all this effort, all this grasping, is unnecessary, and in that moment, surrender is no longer a choice. It is the only thing that makes sense. This is the paradox of life. The more you try to control it, the more resistance you create. The tighter you hold on, the more life slips through your fingers like water. But when you loosen your grip, when you stop trying to force everything into a rigid plan, something remarkable happens. Life begins to unfold in ways you never expected. Opportunities appear effortlessly, and the very things you were chasing start coming to you. Think of the ocean. If you thrash against the waves, you exhaust yourself, struggling to stay afloat. But the moment you relax, the water carries you. This is the essence of surrender. Not giving up, but giving in to the natural flow of existence. It is understanding that you are not separate from life, that you are not a lone swimmer battling the current, but part of the ocean itself. But letting go is terrifying at first. The mind resists. It tells you that if you stop pushing, things will fall apart, that if you loosen your grip, you will lose everything. But what if it is the opposite? What if surrender is not the loss of control, but the discovery that control was never necessary in the first place? What if life is already guiding you, and all your struggle was only delaying the inevitable. You may notice that the things you once obsessed over no longer consume you. The worries that kept you awake at night begin to fade. You stop overanalyzing, stop forcing conversations, stop trying to manipulate outcomes. You start trusting, perhaps for the first time, that things will work out as they are meant to. And here is where the magic happens. The very things you were once desperate for, the love, the opportunities, the clarity, start to find you naturally. Not because you chased them, but because you made space for them to arrive. The irony is that people spend their whole lives searching for happiness, fulfillment, and purpose, believing that these things must be achieved through effort and struggle. But true peace is not something you achieve, it is something you allow. The moment you surrender, you step into alignment with life itself. You realize that the river was always moving, and the only thing keeping you stuck was your resistance to its flow. Look back on your life. Think about the times when things fell into place effortlessly, when the right doors opened, when life surprised you in ways you never could have planned. Those moments were not coincidences. They happened because, for a brief moment, you let go, you trusted, and life responded. So if you feel the urge to surrender, do not fight it. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are finally waking up. You are realizing that life is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be experienced. And when you stop resisting, you don't just find peace, you find freedom. There comes a moment in life when, despite all the uncertainty and chaos around you, you begin to feel an unshakable sense of trust. You may not know exactly where you're headed, you may not have all the answers, but deep down, something within you knows that everything is unfolding as it should. This trust is not blind optimism, nor is it a naive belief that nothing will ever go wrong. Rather, it is an inner knowing, a quiet confidence that no matter what happens, you are exactly where you need to be. For so long you may have operated from a place of fear. Fear of making the wrong choice, fear of losing control, fear of the unknown. You planned, you strategized, you tried to predict every possible outcome to protect yourself from disappointment. But what if true security does not come from controlling life, but from trusting it? What if the very act of letting go is what allows everything to fall into place? At first, this trust feels strange, even uncomfortable. You have spent years believing that you must constantly fight, push, and struggle to make things work. But slowly you begin to notice something. When you trust life, when you allow things to unfold instead of forcing them, everything seems to flow more effortlessly. The right people come into your life, the right opportunities appear, and the things you once chased begin to arrive on their own. We live in a world where appearances are often deceiving, where the masks we wear can cloud our true intentions. But the question arises, how do we distinguish between those who nurture our growth and those who quietly drain the very essence of who we are? In this journey of life, some individuals may enter our circle cloaked in the guise of friends, mentors, or loved ones. Yet beneath their charming facade, they may embody forces that pull us further from our true selves. True strength lies not in our ability to accept every presence in our lives, but in our capacity to discern who belongs and who doesn't. For there are those who thrive on your energy, distort your reality, and bring chaos into your calm. These are the demons we must identify not in the mythical sense, but as forces that, once recognized, give us the power to choose freedom over bondage, clarity over confusion. In life, we often find ourselves surrounded by individuals who on the surface appear to be genuine, caring, and trustworthy. They speak words that resonate with wisdom, extend gestures of kindness, and present themselves as pillars of support in our lives. But there's an unsettling truth lurking behind these well-worn masks. The masks we wear, and those worn by others, are tools of self-protection, self-presentation, and sometimes self-deception. The problem arises when we mistake the mask for the true face. The human mind is often drawn to appearances, to what is visible and tangible. In our modern world, where appearances hold such weight, it's easy to be fooled by someone's outward charm, charisma, or pleasantries. A smile can be misleading. A kind gesture can be a strategic maneuver. And all too often we place our trust in people simply because they appear to be the embodiment of virtues we seek. But virtue is not something easily worn or superficially practiced. It is the embodiment of consistency, integrity, and truth across time and circumstance. Consider the people in your life who have the ability to charm and seduce you into believing they are your allies. They may tell you exactly what you want to hear, offer advice that seems wise, and present themselves as a beacon of light during your moments of darkness. At first, everything seems genuine, and yet as time passes, a subtle unease may begin to grow. The more you interact with them, the more you may feel drained, confused, or even belittled, but they never seem to be the cause of it. In fact, they are often the ones who insist they are simply helping you, guiding you, or being there for you. This is where the masks come into play. The mask is a well-crafted illusion designed to keep you entranced, unaware of the true nature that lies beneath. Just as an actor takes on a role for a play or film, some individuals wear these metaphorical masks to manipulate perceptions and shape the dynamics of their relationships. What's alarming is that we often fail to recognize these masks because we are conditioned to see only what we want to see. We crave validation, we seek companionship, and we long for connection. The mask with its pleasant exterior is often exactly what we are drawn to. But behind the mask, a different truth may be unfolding. The mask, which at first appeared benevolent, starts to reveal its darker nature. It may begin with subtle cues of phrase that cuts deeper than it seems, a passive-aggressive comment masked as a joke, or a seemingly harmless gesture that leaves you feeling more isolated than before. Over time, these small signs accumulate, and you start to question whether the mask is truly what it seems. You find that what was once a source of comfort is now a source of confusion. The discomfort is not your own fault, it is the consequence of someone else's inability to show their true face. And here lies the danger of relying solely on appearances. The ability to recognize the truth beneath the surface becomes obscured. The more you allow yourself to be swayed by the charm of the mask, the harder it becomes to see beyond it, to see the truth that lies hidden. In doing so, you risk being drawn into a world where manipulation, control, and self-interest govern the relationship rather than genuine care, love, and mutual respect. But here's the liberating truth: you have the power to see beyond the mask. The key is in awareness. By observing someone's actions, their consistency over time, their treatment of others, and how they make you feel after every interaction, you begin to discern the real face behind the mask. Actions speak louder than words, and patterns are the true storytellers. In your quest for understanding, do not only rely on the smile, the kind words, or the occasional compliment. Instead, look to how they react when they do not get their way, how they treat you when they are angry or upset, and how they speak of others when they think you are not listening. The mask often slips in those moments, revealing the true intentions beneath. If someone in your life consistently distorts your perception of reality, makes you doubt your own worth, or leaves you feeling smaller and more disempowered, then the mask is no longer a harmless facade. It is a tool of control, and you must be brave enough to look beyond it. The challenge is not in confronting them about the mask they wear, but in recognizing your own capacity to remove yourself from the dynamic altogether. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. In the end, understanding that masks exist is not about condemning others or living in fear of being deceived. It is about freeing yourself from illusions and false expectations. It's about recognizing that behind every mask there is a deeper truth, waiting to be uncovered, one that may either heal and empower or distort and trap. By learning to see beyond the superficial, we reclaim our power and our peace. The face behind the mask will no longer hold sway over us once we have learned to look inward, to trust ourselves, and to choose relationships rooted in authenticity and truth. In the intricate dance of human relationships, energy is exchanged constantly, whether consciously or unconsciously. It is an invisible force that flows between people, binding them in connection. Yet not all exchanges are equal, and not all relationships leave us feeling revitalized or nourished. The subtle exchange of energy can reveal much about the true nature of the people we interact with. While some individuals lift us up, inspire us, and fill our spirits with a renewed sense of purpose, others seem to drain us, leaving us exhausted, depleted, and questioning our sense of self. This imbalance in the flow of energy can be one of the clearest signs that someone in your life may not have your best interests at heart. Energy is a precious resource. It fuels your creativity, shapes your mood, and drives your actions. When it is spent wisely, it cultivates growth, joy, and positivity. However, when it is misused or siphoned away by those who do not respect its sanctity, it creates a hollow space within you. A person who drains your energy is like a parasite feeding off your vitality while leaving you weakened in the process. The drain is often subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but over time, the effects accumulate and can manifest in your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. The draining effect begins with the smallest interactions. It might start with a conversation that leaves you feeling uneasy or weighed down, even if the words spoken seemed harmless on the surface. At first, you might chalk it up to a bad day or external circumstances, but over time, you begin to notice a pattern. Every time you engage with this person, you feel a little more depleted, a little less yourself. The energy exchange becomes one-sided. The more you give, the less you receive in return. This imbalance is often the hallmark of toxic relationships, where one person takes far more than they offer, leaving the other in a perpetual state of exhaustion. This energy drain is not always a result of malicious intent. It can be unconscious. Some individuals may not even realize the extent to which they are depleting others. Yet, regardless of intention, the effect remains the same. A person who constantly seeks validation, requires excessive emotional support, or demands attention without reciprocating can become an energetic black hole. These individuals often leave you feeling as though you are pouring from an empty cup, trying to give when you have nothing left to offer. Over time, this dynamic becomes exhausting, and the joy you once experienced in their presence fades into a sense of obligation or resentment. The drain can also manifest in more insidious ways, like guilt-tripping or emotional manipulation. A person who drains your energy often does so through subtle forms of control, making you feel responsible for their happiness or well-being, or making you feel guilty for needing time for yourself. They may create a sense of urgency around their problems, pulling you into their chaos, and once you are involved, they leave you with nothing to show for it. It's as though they have taken your emotional energy without giving anything in return, leaving you with a lingering sense of discomfort. Sometimes the energy drain is accompanied by a sense of confusion. You may find yourself questioning your own reactions or feelings after spending time with this person. Are you being too sensitive? Are you overreacting? But when you stop and reflect, you realize that the constant emotional labor you've been putting in has left you questioning your own worth and well-being. This confusion is a powerful tool used by the energy drainer to maintain control. By sowing doubt in your mind, they can continue to feed off your energy without you even realizing it. In a healthy, balanced relationship, there is an ebb and flow, a mutual exchange where both individuals give and receive in equal measure. The energy flows freely between them, and each person walks away feeling lighter, inspired, or rejuvenated. But in relationships where energy is drained, there is a constant imbalance. One person is continually taking, leaving the other feeling heavy, unfulfilled, or even depleted. The person who is doing the draining may not always be aware of the harm they are causing, but the effects on the other person are clear exhaustion, resentment, and a slow disintegration of self-worth. The key to breaking free from this dynamic is to become attuned to the subtle shifts in energy that occur during and after interactions. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. Do you feel uplifted, seen, and heard? Or do you feel emotionally empty, tired, and worn down? The truth lies not in the words spoken or the actions performed, but in how your energy responds to the interaction. If you find that you are consistently left feeling depleted, it is important to recognize that this is not a sign of your weakness, but rather an indication that something in the relationship is out of balance. Once you begin to notice the signs of energy drain, it becomes a call to action. You must protect your energy with the same care you would protect any other valuable resource. Set boundaries. Know when to say no. Understand that your emotional and mental well-being are not negotiable. A person who drains your energy will continue to do so until you take a stand, until you refuse to allow them to siphon away your vitality any longer. The journey towards reclaiming your energy is not always easy. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a deep understanding of your own needs. But it is ultimately an act of self-respect. When you choose to protect your energy, you create the space for relationships that nourish you, that support your growth, and that help you become the best version of yourself. You are worthy of energy that uplifts, of connections that leave you feeling whole, not hollow. In protecting your energy, you reclaim your power and free yourself from the unseen forces that would drain you dry. In the landscape of human interaction, there exists a subtle, yet powerful force that shapes the way we connect with others' manipulation. It is a quiet and often invisible force, yet it can twist our perceptions, cloud our judgment, and gradually erode our sense of self. The manipulation, in its most insidious form, is not always overt or direct. Instead, it operates under the guise of care, concern, or even love. Those who manipulate often appear to be looking out for your best interests, but in reality they are steering you in a direction that benefits them, often at your expense. They craft their actions carefully, shaping the environment around you so that you feel compelled to act or think in ways that serve their needs, desires, or agendas. And at the heart of manipulation is control. The manipulator does not seek an equal exchange, they seek dominance. They thrive on creating a dynamic where they hold the power, whether it's in the form of emotional control, financial dependence, or psychological influence. The manipulation may begin subtly, often disguised as concern or guidance. At first, it may seem like they are simply offering advice or suggestions. Perhaps they tell you what's best for you, what you should do in a particular situation, or how you should feel. They position themselves as someone who knows better, as a figure of authority in your life, and you may begin to trust their judgment. Their words seem wise, their advice sound, and their presence comforting. However, this comfort soon morphs into something more restrictive. The manipulator might begin to question your decisions, undermine your confidence, or plant seeds of doubt in your mind. They may tell you that you're not capable of making good choices on your own, or that you're too emotional, irrational, or naive. Over time, this creates a dependency, emotional or intellectual, where you begin to rely on their guidance and your own intuition or judgment begins to feel unreliable. The manipulator's subtle control takes root in your mind, and you may find yourself second-guessing your every move. This manipulation can manifest in a variety of ways. Sometimes it appears in the form of guilt tripping. The manipulator may act as though they are doing something for you out of love or care, only to later make you feel guilty for not reciprocating in the way they expect. They might say things like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me," or "You owe me." These tactics are designed to make you feel indebted, to place the weight of responsibility on your shoulders, and to compel you to act in ways that serve their needs rather than your own. It's an emotional trap that entangles you and keeps you stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and obligation. Another form of manipulation is gaslighting, a psychological tactic that distorts your sense of reality. In this scenario, the manipulator might twist facts, deny things they've said or done, or make you question your own memory or perception. They may accuse you of overreacting or being too sensitive when you bring up concerns, making you feel as though your emotions are invalid or exaggerated. Over time, this distorts your ability to trust your own experiences, leaving you confused and vulnerable. Gaslighting erodes your self-confidence, making it easier for the manipulator to gain control over you. They set the rules of the game, and you are left trying to figure out where you stand. Manipulation is also often seen in more passive, aggressive behavior. A manipulator may not directly confront you or state their desires outright. Instead, they may express dissatisfaction or anger through indirect means such as sulking, giving the silent treatment, or making veiled comments that imply something is wrong without openly addressing the issue. This creates an atmosphere of tension and uncertainty, leaving you constantly on edge, trying to read between the lines and figure out what is expected of you. The manipulator's power lies in this ambiguity, and they use it to keep you off balance and unsure of where you stand. What makes manipulation so dangerous is its insidiousness. It doesn't come with loud demands or visible force. It often wears the disguise of kindness, concern, or affection. A manipulator will often position themselves as someone who is doing what's best for you, someone who is helping you see the truth, even when their actions are anything but helpful. They might portray themselves as a savior, someone who is saving you from your own flaws, weaknesses, or mistakes. But in reality, they are not saving you at all. They are merely leading you down a path where you are forever dependent on their approval and validation. The emotional toll of manipulation is often invisible. It's not always about bruises or scars, but about the slow and steady erosion of your autonomy. The manipulator's words and actions chip away at your sense of self, making you question who you are and what you truly want. Over time, you may begin to lose sight of your own desires, your own boundaries, and your own sense of purpose. You may find yourself pleasing the manipulator, adjusting your behavior, and sacrificing your own well-being in order to keep the peace or maintain the relationship. The first step toward freeing yourself from manipulation is awareness. Recognize when you are being subtly steered in a direction that doesn't align with your true self. Pay attention to the dynamics of your relationships and notice when you feel diminished, controlled, or invalidated. If someone's words or actions consistently leave you feeling less confident, more anxious, or more dependent, it's time to take a step back and evaluate whether this person's influence is helping or hindering your growth. Breaking free from manipulation requires courage. It requires the strength to trust your own judgment, to set boundaries, and to reclaim your own autonomy. It requires acknowledging that manipulation is not a form of love or care. It is a tool for control, and it has no place in healthy, balanced relationships. When you learn to recognize the subtle manipulations around you, you can start to untangle the webs of deceit and regain control of your own life. You are worthy of relationships where your voice is heard, your needs are respected, and your sense of self is honored. Some people seem to live in a perpetual state of chaos, constantly stirring the pot, creating drama, or exacerbating conflicts where none previously existed. It's as if their existence thrives on confusion, disarray, and emotional volatility. This pattern is not random or accidental. For some individuals, chaos is a tool, a weapon they wield to keep others engaged, distracted, and entangled in their world. The demon in your life often plays the role of the architect of turmoil, crafting situations that force you into a cycle of drama and emotional conflict, keeping you tethered to their chaos whether you want to be or not. In the early stages of knowing someone like this, the chaos may seem thrilling or even energizing. Their lives appear to be filled with constant excitement, unexpected twists, and a whirlwind of activity. They might tell you thrilling stories, recounting their latest conflict, relationship drama, or financial mess. It seems as though every moment is filled with intense highs and lows. At first, you may be drawn in by this energy, seeing it as a source of excitement or distraction from your own routine. The drama feeds your curiosity, and you might even find yourself offering advice or support in an attempt to help them sort things out. But over time, you begin to notice something unsettling. This chaos is never ending. It never resolves. Each issue leads to another. Each crisis builds on the previous one. And no matter how much you try to help or offer your wisdom, the situation only escalates. This never-ending cycle of turmoil starts to feel more like a trap than a challenge. You may begin to feel as though no matter how much you give, how much time and energy you invest, the storm is always there, swirling around you, impossible to calm or escape. The more you try to fix it, the more you find yourself caught in the undertow. This is the essence of the chaos the demon creates. It is not just a series of unfortunate events, it is a deliberate act of destabilization. By constantly introducing new conflicts, problems, or crises into the mix, they maintain control over the situation and the people around them. It's an exhausting pattern that leaves you constantly on edge, always wondering what will happen next. Each new wave of drama becomes a distraction, preventing you from focusing on your own life, your own goals, and your own growth. It is a deliberate effort to keep you entangled in their world, where your attention is consumed by their needs, their struggles, and their emotional upheavals. What makes this dynamic so insidious is the way it shifts the focus. At first, you might feel a sense of purpose or importance, as though you are the one holding the ship steady amidst the storm. You may feel needed, as though your advice or emotional support can bring calm to the chaos. But the truth is, the chaos is not meant to be resolved. It's meant to keep you in a constant state of reaction. The more you try to intervene, the more you find yourself drawn into the emotional mess they create, leaving you feeling drained and powerless. What was once a simple act of kindness or care becomes a cycle of emotional manipulation, where you are continuously pulled back into the drama, unable to step away or focus on your own well-being. These individuals thrive on the constant fluctuation of emotions, the highs and lows, the crises and resolutions, the constant pull of tension and release. They may even create drama where none exists, stirring up conflict with others, inventing problems in their personal or professional lives, or inflating minor issues into catastrophic events. Their lives are rarely smooth, and they seem to be addicted to the ups and downs that come with creating emotional chaos. There is no peace, no calm, no stability, only a never-ending series of emotional episodes designed to keep everyone involved on their toes. If you're not careful, you may find yourself caught in their web, constantly reacting to the chaos they introduce, unable to find solid ground. You might begin to question whether their problems are a result of bad luck, or whether they are deliberately creating drama to pull you into their orbit. The more you try to help, the more you become entangled in their emotional state, unable to break free from the cycle. Your own sense of peace and balance begins to erode as the unpredictability of their world replaces your own sense of stability. The key to recognizing this behavior is in the patterns. If you find that your relationship with someone is defined by constant emotional upheaval, if the conversations always turn into crises, if you feel like you are constantly waiting for the next storm to hit, it's time to take a step back and assess whether this person is contributing positively to your life or whether they are keeping you in a state of perpetual chaos for their own benefit. The drama may seem like a form of connection, but in reality it's a mechanism for control. By keeping you off balance and distracted, they prevent you from focusing on your own needs, your own peace, and your own growth. Breaking free from this dynamic requires boundaries. You must decide not to engage in the drama, not to allow yourself to be pulled into every crisis or conflict they create. You need to reclaim your time, your energy, and your emotional peace. It's not about ignoring their struggles, but rather about recognizing that their chaos is not yours to carry. By stepping away from the drama, you free yourself from their emotional turbulence, allowing you to restore balance to your life and focus on what truly matters to you. The liberation comes when you realize that peace and stability are not only possible but necessary for your well-being. When you remove yourself from the chaos, you create the space for your own growth, your own tranquility, and your own sense of purpose. You no longer need to be a part of someone else's storm. You are entitled to live in calm, to focus on your own life, and to cultivate the peace that will allow you to thrive. Recognizing the invitation to chaos for what it is, a tool for manipulation and control, gives you the power to choose a life free from the constant turmoil and emotional turmoil that once seemed inevitable. In every relationship there is an unspoken currency, a system of give and take, of trust and respect, that keeps the dynamic balanced and healthy. But in some relationships this balance is deliberately disrupted by someone who seeks to control, dominate, and manipulate not through force, but through the subtle and insidious use of guilt. Guilt, in its most toxic form, becomes a weapon, a tool used to make you feel responsible for someone else's emotions, actions, or well-being. It is the invisible thread that ties you to another person's needs, making you feel as though your happiness and peace are secondary to their emotional state. Over time, this form of emotional manipulation can erode your sense of self, creating a dependency that feels suffocating and impossible to escape. The manipulator who uses guilt is often masterful in their approach. At first, they may seem to express genuine concern for your well-being or a desire to support you. But underneath these actions lies a much darker intention to create a sense of obligation, to make you feel as though you owe them something, whether it's time, attention, or affection. They may act as though their actions are selfless, that they are doing something for you out of pure love or friendship. And in return, they subtly expect you to provide something in return, something you may not even realize you owe them until it's too late. This form of guilt manipulation often begins with a seemingly harmless request, followed by a sense of discomfort when you decline or fail to meet the other person's needs. They might say, "I can't believe you're not helping me with this after all I've done for you," or "I really need you right now. And it hurts that you're not there for me." The words themselves might seem innocent, even reasonable, but they carry an underlying message: you are responsible for my emotional state. You are the one who should be making me feel better. This creates a sense of responsibility on your part that does not belong to you, making you feel as though your actions or lack of actions are the cause of their emotional suffering. Over time, this guilt begins to accumulate. It becomes harder to make decisions based on your own needs, your own desires, because you are constantly burdened by the weight of someone else's expectations. You may begin to feel as though you are walking on eggshells, afraid to do anything that might upset the other person or make them feel neglected. The manipulator feeds on this fear, using your sense of guilt to control your behavior, to push you into actions or situations that are not in your best interest. They know that if they can make you feel responsible for their feelings, you will bend to their will, often at the expense of your own well-being. This kind of emotional manipulation can be particularly damaging because it plays on your natural desire to help and care for others. You want to be there for the people you love, you want to be supportive, but when that desire is exploited, it turns toxic. The manipulator exploits your empathy, turning it into a tool for their own gain. They might frame their needs as urgent, their emotions as fragile, or their struggles as too overwhelming for them to handle alone. You are led to believe that without your intervention they will fall apart, and it will be your fault. The longer this dynamic continues, the more you lose sight of your own needs and your boundaries become blurred. In these situations, you may feel torn between your own peace and the fear of causing someone else pain. The guilt that is placed upon you is a heavy burden to carry, and in your attempts to avoid conflict or discomfort, you begin to sacrifice your own emotional and mental health. You may start to lose confidence in your ability to make decisions for yourself, as you are constantly seeking approval or validation from the manipulator. Your own desires become secondary, and the manipulator's needs take precedence, no matter how unreasonable or unrealistic they may be. This form of manipulation also comes with a particular kind of gaslighting, where the manipulator shifts the narrative to make you feel as though you are the one in the wrong for feeling resentful or resistant to their demands. They may accuse you of being selfish, ungrateful, or insensitive to their needs. "I thought you cared about me," they might say, or "if you really loved me, you would want to help." These words create a cycle of self-doubt, making you question your own emotions and needs. You may begin to feel guilty not just for your actions, but for simply having the audacity to want something different, to set boundaries, or to prioritize your own well-being. As the guilt builds, so does a sense of powerlessness. The manipulator's grip tightens, and you may find yourself constantly apologizing, justifying your actions, or reshaping your behavior to avoid further guilt. You begin to lose sight of who you are and what you want, as your every decision is filtered through the lens of someone else's emotional needs. The constant pressure to be the one who makes everything better, to fix the other person's problems, leaves you feeling exhausted and defeated. Breaking free from this dynamic is a delicate and challenging process. It requires recognizing the manipulation for what it is, an attempt to shift responsibility for someone else's emotional state onto you. The first step is acknowledging that you are not responsible for how another person feels. Their emotions, struggles, and challenges are theirs to manage, not yours. You have the right to say no, to set boundaries, and to prioritize your own emotional health. It's not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-respect and self-preservation. When you stop allowing guilt to control your decisions, you begin to reclaim your power. You learn to trust yourself again, to make choices based on what is best for you, and to let go of the weight of someone else's emotional burden. Reclaiming your boundaries is not easy, but it is necessary. You are not obligated to carry someone else's guilt, and you are not responsible for their happiness. By freeing yourself from this manipulation, you allow space for healthier, more balanced relationships, ones where you can give without fear of being exploited and receive without feeling guilty. In doing so, you reclaim your peace and your sense of self, no longer burdened by the toxic weight of someone else's emotional demands.